Hi everyone, I'm Jordan and I'm here today with Elizabeth Maxwell. I'm here at Heroes Made in Asia, and you might know Elizabeth as one of the characters in Zelda Breath of the Wild, Urbosa, but also Riju and Zelestia and Zephia in Fire Emblem Engage. Elizabeth, thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Could you maybe introduce yourself a bit better to our viewers?
Oh gosh, yes. Well, I am an American based voice actor, and I have been doing this professionally, I guess, for about 10 years now. And yeah, I mean, those are my big Nintendo credits: Zelda Breath of the Wild, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and Fire Emblem. Uh, but if you watch other anime or play other games, I'm also in Persona 5, My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, Dragon Ball, just to name a few. So I try to stay busy.
Nice. So you've been doing this for around 10 years now, with a lot of pop culture. Um, are you into pop culture yourself as well, or is it just for a job? Because sometimes you hear that they just do the voices but don't play the games themselves.
No, I'm actually very into pop culture too. I started watching anime when I was like 10 or 11. I played my first video game at age 5. It was the old Sega Master System. I think it was Alec Kid and Miracle World was my very first game ever. So it's always been a big part of my life, a big love of my life. And it's part of the reason why I wanted to get into doing voice acting for anime and video games.
That's very cool. So, what were your biggest differences or challenges becoming a voice actress in this industry?
Well, you have to deal with a lot of people saying no before anybody ever says yes. So it can be a little bit challenging in that regard. You have to kind of, as they say, keep a stiff upper lip. And it's it can be difficult to like stay confident in yourself when you're first starting out. But it's worth it if you like hang in there.
Yeah. So would that be your advice to starting voice actors as well and actresses? Stay confident and keep trying, or do you have other tips?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I always tell people, even for myself, who's been doing this for a long time now, I will record maybe, I don't know, 100 voiceover auditions in a month. And I'm lucky if I book one of those jobs. It's like, it's just, you got to get used to kind of like doing the auditions and letting them go and not thinking about them. And then I always say, try to like put together a good support system, whether it's a family member or a friend, somebody who will like keep you motivated and remind you of like your strengths and your talents, because it can be hard to like remember those, and you can lose sight of them when you're getting told no a lot.
Yeah. So in the industry, one of the biggest challenges at the moment is AI.
Yeah.
With the strike going on with SAG-AFTRA, what's your perspective on this problem or this change in directive in the industry?
Well, I think a lot of us acknowledge that AI is not going anywhere, right? Like, it's a new technology. The game industry is famous for, and it makes a lot of sense that they want to take advantage of all the new technologies. So I think if you talk to most voice actors who do this professionally, it's not that we're trying to put the genie back in the bottle. It's just that we want to be fairly compensated for that work.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the three main things that we're fighting for with the strike is fair compensation, and also consent and like knowing what an AI double would be used for. So it's like, we don't want somebody to create an AI double of us and then they can use it for whatever they want, whether it's, nudity or, to say awful, bigoted, racist, hateful things. It's like, no, we want, the power to be like, hey, you can't just do that with my face and my voice.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
So yeah, that's, and I will say, I think it's the most important thing facing our industry right now that I can think of. It's kind of like, if we don't address this now,
Yes. Okay.
then there might not be a lot of voice actors in the future.
Yeah. Hopefully it won't come to that.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of big names from anime and games behind your name. If there's one role you like to choose to do forever, other games, other anime, movies, what would that role be?
Wow, that's a good question. Um, hmm. I mean, and I'm not just saying this because she's right here. But Urbosa was a really, really special character for me. I love all of my characters, but she particularly struck a chord with me. We're both kind of, I'm also like a relatively maternal protective figure, like within my circle of friends. And I really felt like I understood her heart. And it always made me really happy when I got to like be in the booth and perform as her. So, you know, some characters you love them, but they're really damaged or they're really sad, and you know, it's a wonderful thing to be able to play them, but you come out of the booth and you're a little drained. You know, with Urbosa, I never felt drained.
So, how did you end up with the roles of Urbosa and Riju? Did you actively look for it, or did it just come on your path?
So with this particular one, it came through my agency.
Okay.
And we actually had no idea what we were auditioning for, because in the game world there's a lot of secrecy because they don't want you know, anything getting spilled, any information getting put out into the public before they're ready for it to be. So it was under like a code name. We had no idea what we were auditioning for. So it was a huge surprise when I got into the booth and they're like, oh yes, by the way, this is for a new Zelda game. And
Awesome.
it's like,
yeah, so Breath of the Wild was the first Zelda game that has voice acting, for, at least the one from Nintendo. How much of the characters was already decided by a director, and how much were you able to put of yourself into the characters?
So with the Zelda games specifically, they are done in Japanese first, and then we are coming in and dubbing over the Japanese performance. So there's definitely a framework that we have to work within. But then we have like some power within that to kind of like decide on the emotional nuance that we want, if that makes sense.
All right. You have played Urbosa and Riju both in the series. So in Breath of the Wild, they were both there. In Age of Calamity, the Hyrule Warriors, they were both there. And in Tears of the Kingdom, just Riju. How did you approach the characters? Because they are family, but they're still very different.
Yeah. It was nice because there's so many generations that separate them. We didn't have to worry too much about making them wildly similar. But with Riju, it was so fun to play her because the Gerudo are all kind of portrayed as being these really strong, powerful, independent, confident women. Riju came into her, you know, her role as Gerudo chief at a very young age. And I think she was still at that age when she's trying to figure out who she is, what makes her feel strong, if she thinks she's strong. And so it was really fun to kind of play that stage of life where you're coming into yourself and your own power. And it was a beautiful journey to watch happen with her and to get to be a part of.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually part of my next question. In Tears of the Kingdom, there's of course a little time skip, and Riju is more mature, a whole different character. She becomes a sage and gets the secret stone and powers. How was it to return to Riju? Well, she was still a bit different, but kind of the same.
It felt like a mother watching. Like, even though I was playing her, it felt like a proud mother watching your daughter grow up from like a girl into a woman. It was really lovely. And it was fun to see like her humor come out a bit too, because she's feeling more confident in herself. And so she can joke around a bit more. She can kind of poke Link the way that Urbosa does. So yeah, it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, so she's getting more towards Urbosa with how fierce she is and confident. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Although I always thought it was kind of funny, like Urbosa's like a bit of a prankster.
Yeah.
And I feel like Riju is a little bit more type A. Like she's a little bit more uptight.
Yeah. Yeah, in Breath of the Wild, Urbosa is also a bit sassy, to say. Yeah. So another Nintendo franchise you joined is Fire Emblem with Fire Emblem Engage, which is vastly different from Zelda, of course, with gameplay, but also the tones and styles. How did your approach differ from this series from Zelda?
Well, this one was wildly different. I mean, A, because Zephia was the villainess of the series, which is always, I love playing villains. I really love playing villains, but you have to do a little bit more work because no villain thinks that they're evil, right?
Yeah.
So you have to figure out for yourself, how do I buy into what my character is selling? Like, how do I buy into her worldview? And honestly, the more I learned about Zephia, it was actually quite heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Because she is kind of like Urbosa, and that she's like a maternal figure who wants to have a family and protect them, but it just goes very off the rails, and she doesn't have as healthy of a way of showing her love, perhaps, as Urbosa did. So yeah, it's a little more challenging in some ways, but also, I mean, playing a villain is so fun.
Yeah, and especially because with the DLC, you got Celestia as well, which is pretty much the opposite of Zephia, but still also kind of the same.
She's like, I feel like looking at Zephia and Zelestia is like a good way of showing, like, okay, there's always like a nature component to a person, right? But that's like the perfect nurture thing. Like, Zephia is if the nurture goes wrong. Celestia is if the nurture part goes right. She's still really intense.
Yeah, that's
but
nice.
She's a little healthier in her way of showing her love.
Okay, so to finish off a bit, if there's one character from Nintendo from all their franchises, is there one character you would like to voice if they ever add voice or look for a new actor?
Oh gosh. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, you know, Mario was one of the first video games I ever played. And I don't even know who I would want to be, even if I didn't say anything, even if it was just like, like vocalizations. I would love to be in a Mario game one day.
Awesome.
In any way, shape, or form.
Okay, so then my final question: are you allowed to use your voices outside of the Nintendo?
With Nintendo, unfortunately not.
Okay.
Yeah, with some companies it's a little bit more flexible, but with Nintendo, I respect that they prefer not.
That's fair enough. Okay, then, well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Really
It's
nice
just lovely to talk to you.
Yeah.